From the high-definition educational broadcast center at Bergen Community College's main campus in Paramus, this is Studio Bergen. Hi everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of Studio Bergen, your connection to the state's largest community college. We begin this month with the wheels on the bus going round and round, literally. After years of discussions involving better connecting the college's flagship location in Paramus with its southern Bergen location in Lyndhurst, Bergen Community College at the Meadowlands, thanks to a federal grant, the dream is now a reality. On October 2nd, college and county officials, including Bergen County Executive Kathleen Donovan, launched a free bus shuttle service between the locations. The shuttle is supported by a 3-year, $600,000 congestion mitigation and air quality grant with a county match of more than $200,000 secured by the college and county. Bergen Community College at the Meadowlands Dean, Linda Emmer, said the shuttle fills a long-standing need.
It's very exciting. Students have been needing that. It's very difficult at times to get to this campus unless you drive. Many of the students take 3 buses to get here currently. So the county realized the need for it as well as the college. And as this location continues to grow and expand, it does give students more opportunities.
In other news this month, in the continuing effort to provide opportunities for our students, Bergen officials joined with their counterparts from Fairleigh Dickinson University on October 16th to sign an articulation agreement allowing the seamless transfer of credits between the two schools. The Bergen Community College FDU Scholars Program, signed by Bergen President Dr. B.K. Walter and FDU President Dr. Sheldon Drucker, remains unique in that FDU will offer participating students a 40% tuition reduction. Assemblyman Gordon M. Johnson praised the schools for their commitment to affordability and providing a pipeline for keeping Bergen County students close to home.
We've complained years about we send our students out of state because number one, it's cheaper, and number two, there are no seats, and out of seats for students to stay here. This program not just keeps the students in New Jersey, but keeps them in Bergen County. For those who want to participate in this. So another plus there. So now we have students staying in Bergen County and hopefully finding jobs here when they graduate and then becoming part of the workforce here. Very important.
The partnership also features the creation and management of a dedicated FDU office at Bergen. The college maintains more than 40 articulation agreements with 4-year schools. Our next story remains one of the most unique we may ever report on, considering its stature in a national sense. Almost 68 years ago this month, President Harry Truman presented Bergen County resident Nicholas Oresco with the Medal of Honor, the highest recognition for military veterans. When Mr. Oresco passed away in early October as the nation's oldest living Medal of Honor recipient for his acts of valor during the Battle of the Bulge, Bergen County officials, veterans groups, and countless others sprang into action, creating a memorial service for the deceased hero that would take place at Bergen's main campus in Paramus October 10th. Classes were canceled in order to accommodate the service. The memorial, which featured the presence of 4 Medal of Honor winners, Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, and police, fire, military, and EMS personnel from across the region, began on Paramus Road, continued in the Anna Maria Ciccone Theater, and concluded with internment at George Washington Memorial Park. Family friend and attorney John Carbone led the proceedings.
We are told daily in the papers and on the news that people perform heroic acts, and they do. But those heroic acts are not necessarily heroism. A hero like Nick changes the course of history. A selfless, singular act of significance and stature made a difference in a battle in World War II.
Of the more than 16 million men and women who served the U.S. Armed Forces during World War II, only 464 received the Medal of Honor, including Mr. Oresco. Moving on to this month's edition of Faculty Focus, you're about to meet an instructional stalwart at the college, Dr. George Cronk. Professor Cronk, the chair of the Philosophy and Religion Department, has taught at Bergen for more than 41 years, making him one of the longest tenured professors currently working at the school. A man of varied interests and an ever-thoughtful mind, Professor Cronk nonetheless needed an intellectual awakening in his 20s that served as the catalyst for his career in academics.
As I have often put it, in college, things went very well. I discovered what I call the life of the mind, and by the time I was in my sophomore year at college, I was very impressed with my professors, and they became sort of models for me, and I identified with them strongly. And at that point, as a sophomore in college, I decided I'd really like to do what they do, and I pursued higher ed from that point on. And my intention was to get my bachelor's degree, then a master's degree, then a PhD degree, and I did do all that.
When considering the degrees he has attained, including a JD and subsequently serving as an attorney for 25 years concurrent to his work at the college, it's no surprise Professor Cronk holds continuous learning in high regard.
Even if I weren't teaching, I would continue to read and study and write as much as I could. Ever since I got that opportunity to go to college, having had a really disruptive life up to the age of 19 and 20, you know, it was such a big break to me, and I fell in love with reading, studying, arguing, writing, and so forth. And so I just have this strong motivation to do that. Teaching definitely keeps you going. If you're going to do a good job at teaching, there's no way to do it if you don't keep studying and thinking and arguing and staying current, engaging in debates and discussions at the professional level and also with your own students.
Professor Cronk admits many students struggle due to the subject matter. Philosophy can be an infamous word, but he says that's perfectly fine.
Philosophy itself is in many ways an odd subject. Philosophers think in unusual ways. They write in unusual and I would say difficult ways. So philosophical writings require a lot of effort and they are difficult to understand. I often try to soften it up for my students by saying, because when you start a semester, right away you get responses like, I tried reading the assignment, I couldn't understand 3 words of it, right? And I have usually told the students, and this is therapy, but it's true. I say to them, I still struggle with those readings. They are not easy. Philosophical thought is not ordinary, everyday stuff. So it requires special effort, and I said, and that's why our discussing the stuff and arguing about it and interacting about it is very important to understanding it.
Given those facts, Professor Cronk tries to serve as a study leader and facilitator for his students. Even his learning evolves.
I am not really here to teach philosophy or even religion. What I'm doing is I'm still studying these things. I'm studying philosophy along with the students. I say this term, again, for the 1000th time, I'm studying this little book by René Descartes, Meditations on First Philosophy. And now you're going to be studying it for the first time, or maybe the second. But for me, it's about the, who knows, the 1000th time. And I'm still studying it, still not fully getting it, and so forth. So it goes from there, and then students get more and more, as again, if they stick with it. I always do say at the beginning of semesters also, I said, please, don't just drop out. Don't panic and run away. Stick with it. You can do this.
After all, nothing is black and white in philosophy. There's always room for interpretation. The point is to think.
What the study of philosophy does, if it works, if a student will go along with it, it trains the person to think things through systematically and rationally. And by rationally, I mean that what we want in philosophy are beliefs that are based either on evidence, empirical evidence, observable evidence, or on good argumentation, or a combination of the two.
In the end, perhaps even for Professor Cronk, it's not about the answer. It's about the process, the learning, the personal convictions, all reached from studying.
It is possible to arrive at conclusions in philosophy, at least for oneself, that, or with others that you're working with. It is possible to arrive at an agreement on some philosophical issue. But it won't be an agreement, it won't be an agreed upon conclusion that will please everybody universally. But an individual, at least, a student, can think out an issue like, does God exist or not? And work through the various, there are many, many writings on what we call philosophical theology, the attempt to figure out what kind of a being would God be if God was. And then the big question, once we figured that out, the nature of God, then does such a being actually exist? Now, it's possible to come to a conclusion on that. I have come to a conclusion on that. I believe that God, in the classical sense of a supremely perfect being, does exist. The reasons that led me to my conclusion are not going to be acceptable to someone else. Now, I would say, well, that other person isn't getting it, but of course that other person would say, well, George isn't getting it either. He thinks he's got something and actually doesn't have anything.
Also last month, the college continued its annual Latino Heritage Celebration with a slate of events, none more prominent than the October 14th lecture led by Jose Antonio Vargas, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, filmmaker, and the founder of Define American, a campaign that seeks to elevate the conversation around immigration, who was featured on the cover of Time magazine. During his discussion, he gave special attention to a recent reversal of opinion by Governor Chris Christie to support the DREAM Act, which would provide in-state tuition rates for undocumented students.
So there's two things. One, if you're going to run for president, you have to be on the right side of this issue. Number two, this quote came to mind. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And one of these people was a member of this group, Giancarlo Teo. Can you stand up? It's right there. Wave. So this is literally like one of the leaders of the state who grew up in the state who just made Governor Christie reverse his decision. Can you give him a round of applause?
The month also featured a panel discussion, Latinos in Aviation, that put a spotlight on the college's emerging aviation degree programs. At the event, American Airlines pilot Charles Clark discussed how the industry has evolved and the upcoming opportunities available for aviation students.
From there, I flew cargo and little commuters, then got hired at American in 1999. 2001, we all know what happened, and everything came to a standstill. Since then, American has not hired. We'll be hiring starting this December at quite a large rate of young folks. American Airlines pilots were all very old. I'm not sure how old they are at the other airlines, but we are a very old workforce. You guys have a great opportunity coming up in the next few years. It's not going to happen overnight, but you guys got to stick with it, be focused, study.
As is tradition, the month wrapped up with a dinner highlighting the achievements of Latino students and staff at the college. This year's theme, Una Voz, Many Stories, featured quotes from Bergen faculty and staff as the table centerpieces. Coming up after a short break, we'll take a look at the college's art exhibition on Hurricane Sandy and speak with Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness, Dr. Yun Kim, in studio. We'll be right back.
7,000 students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. Keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
Welcome back to Studio Bergen. I'm Larry Levanka. 1 year ago at this time, our region remained shell-shocked from the devastation of Hurricane Sandy, which made landfall October 29th. 1 year later, the memory lives on through Sandy, artists respond to a once-and-future superstorm currently on display in Gallery Bergen, the visual arts exhibition space at Main Campus. Conceived, co-curated, and organized by Bergen professors Suzanne Betker and Marriott Sheldon, the exhibition features photographs, paintings, prints, and video, and remains on view through December 4th. At an opening reception the evening of October 15th, Bergen faculty, staff, and students joined members of the public in viewing the work of the area artists. If writing a novel sounds like a difficult undertaking, imagine committing to writing a 50,000-word novel in 1 month as part of a literary contest. That's exactly what author Marivi Sullivan did. When she visited the main campus in early October, she discussed the process for writing her book, The Mango Bride.
During NaNoWriMo, I learned to write from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every morning in my patio. And 6 to 8 is basically the only time, well, not recently, but at the time, it was the only time that nobody else in the house is awake, except myself with a gigantic cup of tea.
The author has taught creative writing at the University of the Philippines and at the University of California in San Diego. Her novel earned her a Hedgebrook Writing Residency, and in 2011 garnered the grand prize for the novel in English at the Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature. In other news, a panel of local professionals discussed health and well-being at Pathways to Wellness Destination Health, which was sponsored by groups such as the college's Center for Health, Wellness, and Personal Counseling. Attendees learned about the importance of a balanced mental and physical health approach in achieving optimal wellness from psychologists and other professionals. Students also had the opportunity last month to speak with representatives from four-year schools, volunteer their time, and seek employment as part of a trio of fairs sponsored by the Office of Student Affairs. At the college, volunteer, and job fairs, students participated in droves as they prepare to take the next step in their academic and professional lives. The trio of fairs will take place once again next year. Turning our attention to the campus calendar for this month's highlight events, Seniors in Suburbia Setting New Goals as part of the college's ongoing Suburban Studies group work will take place Thursday, November 7th at noon at Ridgewood High School. Also, the Anna Maria Ciccone Theater will welcome vocalist Sissy Houston Friday, November 8th at 7:30 p.m. For tickets, visit tickets.bergen.edu. Welcome to our in-studio segment this month. Today we welcome Dr. Yun Kim, the college's Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for your invitation.
No problem. Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness. You know, that sounds like a very academic term, you know. To somebody on the outside, though, that might not mean too much. Why don't we start by talking about that? What is a Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness?
Okay. My mother used to ask me same question, and I used to say to her, like, Mom, think like I am an internal auditor who's looking into everything we said we are accomplishing and everything that we promised that we deliver, and do it in a quality manner as well as most efficient manner possible. And at the same time, in higher education institutions, we also have numerous federal and state regulations that we needed to follow. And I see as one of my functions is to making sure that we are following those, establish policies, because if we violate any of those, we could lose our financial aid money that's coming in and serving our students.
In your role, a lot of research comes into it, a lot of data, a lot of information. Talk about that a little bit, how if somebody wants to maybe throw something against the wall, you're the one that can maybe provide the data or something to kind of make it happen or to evaluate it.
Evaluate. I have a background in educational psychology, and it is a very much research-based discipline. And I've been doing this type of work for over 20 plus years. And one of my mantra used to be, data is neutral. Don't ask me to provide data to support your assumption or your cause, and it is. We try to provide as objective data as possible, and it's the users who's going to put a value to that, political or social or personal value to those aspects. And also what I find myself very valuable in this process is that honest data, objective data, and well-constructed data analysis really help people to get to the same spot quickly, and provide common foundation to begin conversations.
It's kind of the old adage that numbers don't lie, right? So everybody can coalesce around a number and take something away from it. So I certainly understand you there. You say 20 plus years of doing this kind of work. Let's move on a little bit and talk about how you're going to bring all of that to Bergen. And it's really your signature project in a way. You've been kind of put in charge of strategic planning, and that's been a very big project for you over the last year. The college is in the midst of rolling out its new strategic plan. Talk about the work that went into creating the college's plan for the next 5 years.
It was, okay, first I needed to say that it's not my signature work. It is our work, all of the faculty and staff and our community partners got involved in finalizing our new strategic plan that we are calling it Framework for the Future.
A representative group of all of the parties.
Exactly. And actually, as you know, our new president, Dr. Walter, started her engagement tenure at Bergen in August 2012. And I didn't arrive at Bergen until January 16th of this year. So we literally had only about 4 months to accomplish this huge project where most of the institution takes about 2 years to accomplish. And what was really rewarding for me was that when I reached out to our Bergen faculty and staff and the community partners, they all just jumped and said, when can we come? When can we show up? What do you need? And so when Dr. Walter and I kind of devised that, how are we going to run these focus groups? So it is a focused conversation, but not losing, our core purpose by kind of broadening ourselves too widely. So we devised some essential questions that we need to ask, and people worked. They were very honest. They really shared their dreams that they have from Bergen and what the potentials that they already recognized, and internally some of us did not recognize those potentials. So it was very rewarding, and everything really kind of gelled. And then we also had the strong support from Board of Trustees to get this work done. And I think everybody understood the value of really knowing where we wanted to get to 5 years from now, and how effective that tool could be for today.
Having served on the committee, I can certainly say it was quite a process that made a lot of sense, very pragmatic, and it went in a direction that seemed to be correct as far as framing it goes. But you take all of that information, and you take all of those maybe divergent opinions for what Bergen should be, and then it kind of gets whittled down into a plan like the one that you're holding right now. What is the main idea here? I know there's a few strategic themes. Talk about over the next 5 years, what is Bergen focusing on?
One of the reasons that things gel really quickly, in my personal opinion and professional opinion, is that Dr. Walter, upon her arrival, declared that we are all about student success. So when you put that student success as the key purpose of this institution, everything else can be focused into that direction. So in order to really provide student success in their academic work, in their social, growing up and becoming an adult and becoming a productive community member in this area, in order to accomplish that, next one is we need to have an excellent faculty and staff who are committed to facilitate student success. And it kind of evolved in that manner.
And now we're at a point where everything is about to get, rolled out, or there's at least suggestions for how to roll all of these things out.
Exactly, and you are leading several
I am.
action teams right now.
And then that gets rolled out over the next few years, and they get evaluated. So that comes back to the research. And as we're kind of wrapping up here, talk about that. Talk about how everything will be measured, people will be accountable for rolling things out, and talk about that dedication.
Okay, and as a part of the whole planning cycle, by third year, we also have a comprehensive evaluation process. But also, in addition to getting the a plan finished, we were also mandated to develop how do we know we are really being successful in some of the major arena. So we developed key performance indicators. Sometimes people call KPI. I like to call it core indicators. KPI seems to represent like kind of corporate arena. So I'm kind of softening that with core indicators of our work. And we have a level 1 and level 2. And level 1 contains things like our graduation rate, our transfer rates, how long students are really taking to complete their work at here. As an educational institution, what are we investing for faculty and staff success and so on. And then there is a level 2, more of operational data that we need to keep our eye on to make sure that we are accomplishing our larger strategic goals. And we also held like 3 focus groups. We just talking about those indicators. We have an excellent institutional research team, and they came up with about 40 plus indicators, and you can't really share that with the public. Right. So how do we summarize those? So we held focus groups with our faculty and staff, and we dwindled those down to like about 12 indicators, and it's arranged by the theme. So right now we are kind of establishing baselines, and soon people are going to be involved with setting targets. Right. What is our annual targets, and then 5-year targets. And then we also need to kind of step back. We can't possibly roll out 48 initiatives. So we need to take a little step back and say, what are the goals that we want to accomplish in year 1, year 2, and year 3, and so on.
And you'll see a lot of those action items on this show, I'm sure, featured talking about different things that we're doing here at the college. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for being here.
Well, thank you.
All right. Again, that's all the time we have for this month. Be sure to come back in December as we take a special look inside Studio Bergen, a behind-the-scenes episode. Thanks, and take care.